Okay, what is up there, YouTube? This is J-Man Time, and today I have a video on another super rare weapon from the interwar era. And this weapon comes from Hungary, or the Kingdom of Hungary, in the years just before World War II. And this weapon here was developed by a well-known Hungarian arms developer or weapons designer by the name of Paul Király, who had developed weapons for both the Austro-Hungarian Empire and later the Kingdom of Hungary in the years between 1910 and 1944. Now this weapon here is a rare, almost all aluminum, fully automatic experimental machine pistol or submachine gun developed by Paul Király between the years 1934 and 1936, and it is known as the Danuvia aluminum machine pistol. Now this here is an experimental submachine gun that was developed between 1934 and 1936. It is also one of the early fully automatic weapons to use a non-wooden outer casing instead of the traditional wooden stock or wooden casing that you would see on many submachine guns developed in the 1930s and 40s. Keep in mind that this is before the era of Bakelite and other light alloys that you see nowadays being used in more modern assault rifles and submachine gun designs. Back then, Paul Király experimented with developing a submachine gun that had an aluminum skin or an aluminum casing instead of the traditional wooden or steel outer casing or stock. It had an aluminum stock instead of a steel or wooden stock. This experimental submachine gun was chambered for the 9x25mm Mauser cartridge, also known as the 9x25mm Browning cartridge, which is a high-powered version of the 9mm Parabellum cartridge. It's pretty much a 9mm Parabellum that has been stretched out and has about 25% more stopping power than the standard 9mm. Now, this experimental Danuvia submachine gun from the mid-1930s was the first prototype submachine gun developed by Paul Király in the years after World War I, and it was the prototype for the Danuvia submachine guns that would later be used in the Second World War. The Danuvia model 1939, the Danuvia model 1943, and the Danuvia model 1944, which were Hungarian submachine guns that were used by the Royal Hungarian Army on the Eastern Front in the Second World War. Now, this submachine gun actually sits in the Hungarian Military Museum in Budapest, located in the Buda Castle, which is a castle that also serves as a military museum for the Hungarian Army and the former Royal Hungarian Army, and even the Soviet-era Hungarian Army, and also the Army of Austria-Hungary. In this museum, you can find a ton of different rare Hungarian and even Austrian weapons that were developed in the years between 1910 and the 1980s. So there are tons of rare experimental weapons in this museum, and this Danuvia model 1934/1936 experimental aluminum stock submachine gun is one of the many rare weapons that sit in this museum. Now, the magazine capacity of this experimental weapon is unknown. I haven't found any sources on it, but it might have just been either 10 or 20 round magazines. Keep in mind, this was just a one-off prototype. There was a second submachine gun designed by Danuvia at the same time, known as the LK-28. And I don't have any information on that, but I did see a photograph of it once a couple of years ago at the same museum, but it seems to have been moved, as I no longer see it in any photographs of the museum in the modern era as of 2021. But this here, the Danuvia model 1934/1936 experimental aluminum stock submachine gun is one of the rarest experimental weapons developed by the Hungarians before World War II. So what do you all think of this weapon? Please tell me in the comments section below, and until next time, this was the J-Man Time, signing off.